And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, and everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. Yes, I was here 2 days ago, and I'm back now. Because we had a blockbuster of a trade between the Vancouver Canucks and Calgary Flames, and because of that, I've got Dan from Fireside Podcast making another return guest host visit here. Dan, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for bringing me on, Sean. It's nice to talk hockey when we're on a bit of a break.
Yeah. We had the All-Star draft today.
That's right.
Basically all the Leafs on one team, all the Canucks on another, except for the new Canuck, because he gets to say one more goodbye to Calgary with being on Tate McRae's team.
That's got to be weird to be traded when you're mid-air.
Yeah, I know. And then there's the 3-on-3 PWHL showcase game today as well, and tomorrow's skills competition, and Saturday's the All-Star game. So we are talking about that. The main event tonight is the Calgary Flames and Vancouver Canucks made a blockbuster trade yesterday. Elias Lindholm is now a Vancouver Canuck, and going the other way are Andrei Kuzmenko, Yoni Yermo, Hunter Brustevich, a 2024 first-round pick from Vancouver, and then a conditional fourth-round pick in 2024. The condition is that if the Canucks make it to the Western Conference Finals, it becomes a third-round pick. And if it stays the fourth-round pick, it becomes the better of the two picks that Vancouver currently owns, which is theirs and the New Jersey Devils pick. So
which would be the New Jersey Devils pick.
Most likely, yes. So that piece is pretty much settled. The first round pick is most likely going to be a late 20s first round pick. So I believe I saw one of the analysts talking about there is a bit of a break between the in this upcoming draft, so that there's a bit of a drop off after 20. So we might for future references, we might see some more first round picks by contenders go this year, but you're still giving yourself an opportunity at getting an impact player.
And that's also, picks are currency, right? So even if the Flames don't make that trade, and we've seen what they've done with first in the past, that could be included in another trade or flipped for something else.
Exactly. Well, the Canucks acquired a first-round pick last year for Bo Horvat, and then a few weeks later swapped it for Philip Hronek. With where the Flames are at, we don't know if this is... There was definitely similarities to the Horvat deal with the Canucks and the Flames. The Horvat deal with the Canucks last year and this Lindholm deal for the Flames this year. There's a little bit of inkling of potential rebuild vibes with this trade, but there's also, you don't know what they're doing with a lot of these assets. The Canucks swapped their first for Hronek and kicked off their retool, and look at where they're at now. I don't necessarily see that as that potential being there for the Flames, but first round pick is always good to have, and it was almost a must and an expectation for any return for Lindholm.
And Sean, the crazy thing is apparently Tanev was in the original talks for this, so it could have been even bigger if Tanev was included.
Yeah, I know. I was just closing up shop yesterday when the Elliot Friedman tweet dropped saying that things between the Canucks and Flames were heating up. This was immediately after I had just sort of like gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole in terms of figuring out where the Nikita Zadorov quote unquote rumors came from, which there were none. It was more just speculation based off of the Canucks needing to clear cap to make a trade like this.
Yeah, I haven't seen that from anybody credible.
Yeah, so it came from Elliot Friedman just spitballing ideas on.
Yeah, he was spitballing ideas, but I haven't seen anyone credible confirm that. Yeah, they're talking or someone's called on.
No, and Rutherford and all of them have all so basically debunks that as like they are not shopping him. Yeah, and then you just break down all the it's okay, it's happening. And then Rick Dollywall tweets out checking to see if Tanev's in this deal, and I just laughed at that point. I'm like, I mean, if you're gonna swing for the fences, see if you can hit it over the green monster for a grand slam. Let's go.
That's right. Yeah, you might as well go big, right?
Yeah, might as well. That is something that I want to see. I want to hear from like Rutherford, Alvian, and Conroy 10, 15 years down the road when they can actually talk about it. I want to know what that potential deal would look like, because it could have been like this is a massive deal as it is. That could have been even bigger. It would
buy two get one free. If you take those two, we'll give you Hanifin at no charge. Or we'll give you AJ Greer.
Yeah. It's just.
I think in order for the Canucks to pry away Tanev, it would have taken another first at least.
It would have, yes. Yeah. And I think I just don't see it happening. I could see Tanev being a Canuck at the end in the summer, by the summer. But I
agree. It's like the rumors that might go to Ottawa. I see no reason for Ottawa to trade for him. That's kind of guy that I think they'd want to acquire in the offseason.
Yeah, again, Elliot Friedman talking about Tanev being Ottawa's looking for professionals, and Tanev's definitely considered that for sure. But we'll see where Tanev ends up. We'll see where Hanifin ends up. We can talk a little bit about that later. But let's continue going through the pieces that the Flames were getting, because there's only one for the Canucks. The next piece, I guess, that I would look at is Joni Jurmo. He is a 2020 draft pick, drafted in the third round, 82nd overall. He's 6'4", 190 pounds. He can skate well. As far as I'm not a prospects expert, just based off of what I know from the people I do trust with that. Can skate well, but I don't know what his upside is. I think at best you're hoping for maybe some AHL games, and if he can option for the Flames in the future, I think that's your best bet. Most realistic, your most realistic sort of outcome for Joni Jurmo.
Yeah, I mean, the Flames just need defensemen in the system right now. They've got Connor Poolman, and that's kind of the depth of defense after Brady Lyle. You got these no-name guys. Poirier's out. We know he'll probably be in the NHL next year. Kuznetsov's looked okay. But I think even if Jurmo just ends up being a Wrangler for his career, I think the Flames just need some defensemen in the system.
It is, yeah. And I think that having solid AHLers in your system is overlooked by a lot of fans.
And you need good AHLers to make other AHLers better.
Exactly. And it helps the development of your younger players when you've got a good, solid AHL team.
For sure, yeah.
So, and the Flames have that currently with the Wranglers, but they need to make sure that the prospect pool and development continues on that way. So if Jurmo can become a solid AHLer for them, that I think that's a win for the Flames at that point.
Yeah, and he's also a guy that has played in the U20s in the World Juniors. He played 7 games for Finland. So a guy who has, I would say I always look at the World Juniors being more North American style, and sometimes I worry about how some of these guys are going to look coming over from the leagues over in Europe. And he's played in the Finnish league, so I went back and watched some World Junior footage. He looks, I think, like he'd be able to adapt fairly well.
Yeah, I think he's got the size, and we're seeing where the way the Canucks are building that have built their blue line this year. You look back at Vegas, St. Louis, even Colorado to an extent. Making sure you've got big defensemen who are physical and can play smartly is huge, and a big part of what has helped teams be successful, especially in the playoffs over the past few years. So
I've seen some criticism
maybe
of
he
this.
can develop better, but like I said, I think an AHL bottom pair is probably your best bet for Urmo.
Yeah, and I've seen some criticism of him. I mean, the Liga in Finland is a good league. Like, he's playing against some good players. So yes, his numbers don't look great, but it's a great place to develop. And as Tree Living News say, it's a place to play with men. And I think that will prepare him well. And that's a lot better than, say, the U.S. college route that we often see or things like that. I think, going from a pro league in Europe like the Liga to AHL, I think he will adapt well to that. And he might have an easier time playing with gentlemen his own age.
Yes, yeah. And then the most intriguing part of this deal, I think, is the next prospect in Hunter Brustevich. Just make sure you can spell and pronounce that name. It's a bit of a tongue twister. But he is ripping up the OHL. Third round pick from this past draft, 75th overall. Jeff Merrick is and don't get too upset with this comparison. Jeff Merrick has said that he's being called the Adam Fox of the OHL.
Yeah, but I mean, Adam Fox, even though he left the Flames, he was a good defenseman. Still is.
Yes. Yeah. So he's got in 47 games, Hunter Brustevich has 8 goals and 69 points this year. He was a player that everyone was a little surprised didn't even get an invite to the Team USA World Juniors. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's there next year, and being a big part of the team next year. He's he doesn't have the size that Urmo has. He's listed at 6 foot 190. I think 6 foot might be a bit taller than what he really is. I think he's probably more 5'11"ish. Again, not big, like not a lot, but an undersized offensive defenseman. One of the knocks that I kept seeing from people on Brustevich was a lot of his assists or secondary assists. He wasn't, and they wondered if a lot of this production is sustainable when he takes the next step into pro hockey. I still think it's a great gamble for the Flames to take. He's got some offense. He's got a lot of offensive upside. Good at skating. I remember watching him play in Penticton this past year at the Young Stars tournament, and yeah, I was impressed. And I think this was a great sort of player for the Flames to identify and go after in this deal, because the Canucks were not going to give up their top prospects, and they were going to try and avoid giving up any AHLers who they think are close to being in the NHL, because they're going to have cap issues next year. So
they have what? 8
I was
UFAs
wondering if
now?
Pardon?
The Canucks have 8 UFAs now, don't they?
Yeah, they got a lot. they've got Petey to sign, they've got Hronek to sign as RFAs, and then they've got a whack ton of UFAs to take care of or do something with. But yeah, I was wondering where Brustevich sort of fit into that. I thought he might be not necessarily untouchable, but I thought he'd be a tough get for any team working with the Canucks. But he was also someone I wouldn't have been. I'm not upset that the Canucks used as trade bait here.
And you've got to give to get. And if you don't want to give up one of your top prospects, I think he was, especially considering the Flames were, it seems, targeting defensemen. I think he was probably the best one that they're going to give up. You're not going to give up a bunch of 7th rounders and get Lindholm. So, I think he was a reasonable give for the Canucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, we look at, he's also a right shot defenseman too, which is always tough to find. So,
and this 69 points is not a flash in the pan either. Like last year in his first year in the OHL, he had 57 points in 68 games, which for a defenseman, a rookie defenseman, is very impressive.
It is, yes. Yeah, and I remember when the Canucks drafted him in the 3rd round. It was a very they got a lot of applause from a lot of the internet scouts and the scouting community as a whole for making that selection in the 3rd round. So, I think he might be the biggest wild card in this deal. If he can turn into, I think his upside is top 4 defenseman, power play specialist, sort of maybe a step up on what Oliver Shillington has been before all this has happened with him, and that would be fantastic for the Flames and a great add for the future.
Yeah, and remember the Flames only have 2 defensemen right now under contract for next year. So I'm not saying that this guy comes in and plays an NHL role, but everyone's going to have to move up in the organization. So I think again they need bodies on the blue line. I think this is a great right now. To me, Poirier is the only guy that's really a top prospect on the blue line. So this, I think, gives the Flames a second one. Like you said, a right shot. I think right shots are key. We know the Flames need more right shots. And I think this is the player really that 5 years down the road, when we look at this, we're either going to say made or broke this deal. I don't think it's going to be Kuzmenko. I don't think it's going to be Yermo. I don't think that first is going to turn into a lot for the Flames there. I think it's going to be this player that we're going to say, yeah, the Flames got a good deal because of this or a bad deal because of this.
Agreed. I think, for me, it'll come down to A, what they do with Kuzmenko, B, if they can mine something out of that 1st round pick. But like I said, I think Brustevich is the wild card. I think he could be someone that you can build a blue line around for the Flames in the future. But he also was in a sense buried with the Canucks ever since, even after just less than a year after being drafted, with him being an undersized offensive defenseman. Canucks already have that with their captain Quinn Hughes. Mm-hmm. And you're not, the way the Canucks have built the philosophy the Canucks are going by to build going forwards. And I don't see them wanting to give up Quinn Hughes anytime soon.
No,
not sure where he would have fit.
Yeah, so for sure. I think this is, when I look back at iconic trades the Flames have made, and I look back at something like the Jerome McGinley deal where they just got scraps of nothing, this is one where I go, okay, there's some interesting pieces here. These pieces could turn anything. I don't think anybody thought Klimchuk or Poirier would turn into anything, but you look at this and go, this could be a good futures deal for the Flames.
Yep. Yeah, and they could get more because the next piece here is Andrei Kuzmenko. He scored 39 goals with the Canucks last year. Hasn't really been able to find his game under Rick Tocchet, but he's shown that if you can play him with good players, you give him a little bit more leash, I think he will produce, and he might be someone that the Flames can deal before the deadline again, or it could be something that is in the off season or before the deadline next year, because he signed for one more year at $5.5 million. So I think he's a fit too. Like, there's a lot of ways that the acquisition of Andrei Kuzmenko could go for the Flames, and I don't think there's very few that I think are going to be bad.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think Kuzmenko probably sticks around for the year, and if for no other reason, then I think they need somebody to fill Dylan Dubé's roster spot on the wing, and he's a right shot. The Flames need a right shot winger, so I think Kuzmenko will stick around. I don't know there's a lot of value to him at the deadline. I think if there was, Vancouver probably would have known that and maybe held on to him. I could maybe see it in the offseason, but this is the kind of guy, I mean, if you're going through a rebuild, and I don't think the Flames are doing a full rebuild because they've got Huberdeau, they've got Kadri, they've got these guys. You still need good NHLers to work with your young guys. Yeah. And I think that, Kuzmenko will find a spot here. And at $5 million, if you're going into a rebuild, it's not a bad contract, especially with the cap going up next year. I think you could easily move him in the offseason or next year. The thing that confuses me is I don't think the Flames need wingers right now.
Yeah, I think this was he was included because the Canucks needed to clear cap to make
That's
this
it.
work.
Yeah. Like, to me, the Flames need a centerman or they need defensemen.
Yep, and they got a couple. We already talked about how they got a couple prospects there of defensemen. Especially after trading Lindholm, they definitely need to add a centerman here. They got Kadri and Backlund, but outside of that, you don't really have anyone who you're excited about.
No, you might move Zari back, but I mean, we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah, so but there's opportunities for it, for Zari, for Cole Schwindt, to take a step here and claim a spot as a centerman on this team going forwards.
And I think for both teams, it's interesting that you sort of subtract a top six and gain a top six. Like, neither team, I think their lineup's going to change that much. I don't see Kuzmenko bleeding in the bottom six for the Flames. I think he'll probably be maybe with Huberdeau, Kadri. I think it'd be a good fit. You really don't want to disturb that Mangiapane line. Like, you kind of move from a center to a winger. But the Flames, I mean, for years have needed a good right winger, and maybe he'll turn into that. And he hasn't had his greatest season this year. I'll be curious to see how he does under Huska. But I have to believe that, it wasn't one good year. If we look at some of his numbers in Russia, his numbers last year, I think he just needs more confidence.
No, I think he needs a little bit more of a leash. Like, Rick Tocchet was definitely a little tight on the leash and asking him to be, to do things that he wasn't fully comfortable with. He's also coming from the KHL where the style of play is a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
So he has some habits that he was able to get away with over there that you can't get away with over here, especially under a very strict north-south coach that Rick Tocchet is. So I think if Huska gives him a little more leash and allows him to be a little more creative and isn't as it's just sort of iron-fisted with him, I think you will see him his confidence come back. I don't think he's a high 30. I don't know if he's a high 30s potential, like pushing 40s goal scorer consistently in the league, but I think he should be a high 20s, low 30s guy.
I agree.
It's in the right situation. So,
I agree. And Sean, I think too, not only the north-south thing, like you were talking about with Tocchet, but I think you're going from a team with a lot of expectations to one that I think now we can all say doesn't have a lot of expectations. And I think that might help them too. Going from, the top team in the league to a Flames team where there might be a lot less direction given. It might just be, go out and do your thing, or, now you're the top guy in a smaller pool. I think that might help him, revitalize his game a little bit too, because there's a lot of pressure to being on that number one team.
Yeah, there is, and I think he was healthy scratched a few times this year, and you could tell. Even I think it was on this past Saturday after the first period, he stayed on the bench a little bit longer than everyone else, and you could tell that it was weighing on him, that he wasn't playing well enough, and it was a little bit heartbreaking. He's a character. He's got a very infectious smile. He's got a very infectious, like, happy-go-lucky personality. So Flames fans, you've got a character coming to Calgary. I really hope you embrace him. He's very charismatic in his own way. So yeah, if in a year where you've had a very tough go of it, you do have someone who's might be able to bring some brevity and some entertainment.
I've heard nothing but good things from the Canucks fans and Canucks media about this guy. Like, he seems like a character player. Like you said, I think he's somebody who can, from what I've seen, he'll be one of those voices we need when the Flames are about to go through a tough stretch, and a guy that can keep it light with the players and also with the media. And I think just, a guy who maybe is going to let that not weigh on him as much. And great with fans. Like, I've heard nothing but great things with fans. He stayed late to sign autographs. He's made sure, kids get to see him. Like, this seems like a true professional.
Yeah. So I think
I don't know. Maybe that's because in Russia, if he didn't sign autographs, you'd be in the gulag, or I'm not sure, but he seems very used to that.
Yeah. And then he also had a no trade clause.
Modified no trade, 12 teams.
Yeah, and the Flames were on that list. But the Canucks allowed the Flames to talk with him since I think it was Sunday is what I read, and they were able to convince him to come to Calgary, and with the plan that they have for him and the team. So that was the only thing that might have held up this deal, but he waived, and I think he was I think he was heartbroken to leave Vancouver, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's very excited to be, I think
he's probably heartbroken to leave, but with all the things you were talking about, I think it was time. Like, and maybe that's why I even waited for the Flames. I think he just needed to get out of Vancouver, and we often talk about guys who just need a change of scenery. I think that might be Kuzmenko.
Yeah, I totally expect him to be. Again, I don't think he's going to be scoring at the pace that he was last year, but I think he's going to be better than what he was this year so far.
Yeah.
I think him and Hubert could be a pair to watch, because I don't know who's going to center that line, but that would be, I think that's a pair that I think you need to put together and see if there's any.
Yeah, I'd like to see him and Sharon Govich as well.
Yes, that could work as well. Yeah.
And I expect, though it hasn't been announced, that Kuzmenko will don number 96 for the Flames.
Yeah, most likely. And then that leads us to Elias Lindholm going from the Flames to the Canucks. From what I read, it was the Flames knew he wasn't signing long-term with them before the season. I think they did try to do one more offer to him.
They've tried. They're still far apart on money.
Yeah.
He's looking for a number that starts with a 1, and the Flames, I'm told, are at about a number that starts with a 7.
Yeah. So he is now going to Vancouver. Basically, we'll slot in on that Elias Pettersson line along with Ilya Mikheyev. Who plays center out of the two Eliases? We don't know yet, but.
And the VP Hockey Ops did an interview this afternoon, and he said that they'll probably rotate out.
Yeah, we'll see. I think they'll probably see what works best between the two. And
Lindholm will be wearing number 23 for you guys.
Yeah, he will be wearing number 23. Annika, his partner, picked that as a nod to the year, which was last year, that their son was born. Lindholm wore 28 in Calgary. 28 is a off limits number in Vancouver. It was the
also wore 28 in Carolina.
Yeah, Luc Bourdon wore 28 before he tragically passed. So that's a number that is on
23 is better than going 82.
Well, 82 is taken as well, anyways.
There you go.
That is Ian Cole.
There you go.
So took that one.
You know, I think that
was looking.
both teams get a really good deal here. Like, I think that Elias Lindholm's going to fit in really well with the Canucks. I don't know if he'll re-sign or not, but even if not, you can tell the Canucks are in win now mode, and this is them putting that win now stamp on it. Bringing him in this far away from the deadline, we're 5.5 weeks from the deadline now, roughly. He's going to have a lot of time to get comfortable in Vancouver. He's going to have a lot of time to figure out his line mates, and really also not a big transition going from Calgary to Vancouver. You know, you're not moving across the country. You're not moving that far away from your family. Like, I think this is going to work well for everybody. I would not be surprised if Lindholm doesn't sign, has a great year with Vancouver, and finds somebody to give him his 10 next year.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he's had a rough year. Definitely not deserving of the number he's looking for right now. But you know, if he can find chemistry with Pettersson and Mikheyev, and help the Canucks go deep in the playoffs, that can change.
And
he is a right shot center.
You and I have had debates with Kevin over what this guy is. I think this guy is a good second line center, and I think that's what he'll be in Vancouver.
I think he's better suited to being that. I don't know if he's ever going to get the big money he's looking for. If he's depends on what he's looking for. If he's wanting money, I think there'll be teams willing to pay him the money. If he's looking for he's looking to be part of a team that can be a contender for the majority of his next contract, because I think a lot of it's going to be probably finding a way to get as much money out of the next 6 to 8 years as possible, as well. There'll be teams that have that can offer 6 to 8 year deals, as long as
I think every team
willing.
wants an Elias Lindholm.
Yes,
it's a matter of how much you want to pay him.
Exactly. Going it even as early as recently as Tuesday, when Tyler and I were on talking about we talked about what we wanted to see from the Canucks going forwards trade wise. I was on team no rentals, but I was also expecting a little bit more heftier price for a Lindholm or a Gensel, which were the big names that the Canucks were linked to. I thought maybe that the Canucks would have to give up maybe a Höglander or a Podkolzin, along with a first and others to make it work.
And I think, Sean, it's tough too when you're the first teams making a trade, because you're setting market value. So there isn't my guy's worth this. And I think if we were to wait, 5 weeks from now, I think the Vancouver Canucks would have had to give up more. And I think that's a big reason why Rutherford likes to get these trades done early to set that price.
Yeah, and all set the price, as well as to get the player in earlier to allow for adjustments and all that to the new team.
And if the Flames had Lindholm signed, I think you could have got more from him, especially at the great deal he's got. Like, if the Flames had this guy signed, or even if they did a sign and trade for 7 or 8, I think you could have got more from him. But I think that you limited your return in a way by trading a great contract, like a great rental deal, but a guy that it sounds like thinks he's worth more than he is. I think you've limited your return on that in some ways too.
Yeah, I think the Canucks are definitely Jim Rutherford was on, did the rounds. He was on Donnie and Dolly. He was on the Jeff Merrick show. I think they are very much open to bringing Lindholm back, but they're also fine with him just being a rental. Mm-hmm. I think if they could find a way to make it, get a deal where even if it is an 8-year deal, but it's the cap hit is reasonable. Mm-hmm. I think they would do it for sure. Because they're definitely in win now mode.
And I think one thing people forget too is Jim Rutherford was the GM in Carolina when Lindholm was brought in and then traded to the Flames. So there's some familiarity with this player even before this deal as well.
Yeah, Jim Rutherford was the GM that drafted Lindholm. And then he was gone when they traded him.
Right.
Ron
Yeah.
Francis traded Lindholm and Hanifin to the Flames. I think the one question, and Dylan's brought this up in the chat about that Lindholm could be a plan B if Pettersson is too expensive / wants to go somewhere else. I don't see that. Pettersson is a RFA this year. The Canucks have another year and a bit to convince him to sign long term. So I don't think that's necessarily it. But adding Lindholm now helps maybe provide a different solution if PD decides to go the route of Tkachuk.
And I think that if those two have good chemistry, you might have Pettersson saying, "Hey, you want me to come back? Bring Lindy back." Like, I could see there. We often look at these guys as pairs, and if they can sync really well as a pair, it might make sense to bring them both back and find a way to do so.
Yes, that's the other thing is it. A lot of this will depend on how the Canucks do going forwards, rest of the regular season, going into the playoffs. If they can make a deep run and make it so that and everyone's on board, you might be able to get a lot of the key players re-signed at maybe a little bit of a discount, and make it work so that you can make this more than a one year sort of pop for the Canucks.
I don't know the Canucks obviously as well as you do, but I can't see Pettersson going anywhere. He's an RFA. I don't think anyone's going to want to give up the multiple firsts it's going to take to pry him away from Vancouver. And I think that if you're going to make that kind of a deal, you'd rather go free agent shopping or draft day shopping for a cheaper price. I think Pettersson will be back next year with the Canucks.
Oh, I totally expect Pettersson to be back as well. I just don't. I think the question right now is PD is A, wanting to focus on just playing hockey, and B, I think the big question for him is whether or not he wants to go long term or if he wants to follow Austin Matthews and go shorter. Because that's what Matthews has done for 2 of his deals now, not gone for the full 8. And PD's still on the younger side, and if he goes a little bit shorter on this next deal, he will still have another big money contract coming.
I could see him just sign a deal to take him to free agency.
Yeah, I could see him. Well, he's I think 2 years
25.
away from you. Yeah,
so he'd be 27. I think he'd be eligible. We have to figure out when he first played, but I think 27.
Yeah, so I think he's 2 or 3 years away from UFA. I don't know if he's going to necessarily sign that short, but I don't think he's going to sign. If he's going to sign shorter, I think it'll probably be 3 to 4. Still leave him another 3 to 4 or 5, or go long term at the age of 28, 29.
Okay,
is what I think I could see him doing. So, but yeah, I think the big questions coming out of this are, what happens with Kuzmenko? Do the Flames hold on to him? As I said, you talked about it earlier. I'm in agreement with you. I don't see them. I think there was some talk that they're open to flipping him if he gets his form back and starts to get that value back. I just don't see that happening in 5 weeks.
The only way I could see them flipping him is if the Flames want to act as a bank, and if they're willing to eat $2 million, I think it becomes a lot more attractive for somebody. So if the Flames say, "Hey, we'll bring him in, we'll showcase him on our first line, we'll eat $2 million, it's going to cost you a second or something," then I could see it. But if they're just moving him out, I don't see that happening.
No, I personally think that he'll be there for the rest of the season, and then if they can find the right deal or
I don't think 5 weeks is long enough to audition him and show this guy's changed. I think you wait till the draft to do that.
Yes, I think the draft
or July 2nd. You wait and see who didn't sign the winger they wanted, and then say, "I got one for you."
Yeah, exactly.
Sean, can I ask you a question? Does your thought change on this deal for Vancouver based on if Lindholm signs or not?
If Lindholm signs, make the assumption that it's probably going to be a 6 to 8 year deal. It's going to be an expensive deal. But if he signs long term, even if he signs for like 1 or 2 years, if he signs back on for another year after this season, I freaking love this deal even more. Like I like it now. It was, like I said, I thought the price was going to be more steep for a Lindholm or a Gensel. I love the fit for Lindholm on this team right now. They are going for it this year. And if they can make it more than a rental, that would be amazing.
But even as a rental, you think it was a fair price?
I think it's definitely a fair price for a rental for sure. You got a first round pick. You've got a prospect who's got a very, very good upside, and then you've got you had to give up Kuzmenko to make the cap work, but he wasn't necessarily working in Vancouver this year, so it's kind of like this is the price to pay. And then you've given up a 4th round that may be a 3rd round pick, and then a defense prospect that I don't know how high he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah,
I think it's very much a fair deal.
I like the deal from a Flame side. Like, I don't know these guys as well as you do, but from a Flame side, I like what they got back. And I agree with you. I thought there could be more. I wonder if the Flames didn't want more NHLers. Like, I think the Flames right now are looking at needing young guys. Maybe they could have got another like Höglander, but I have a feeling that Vancouver had few guys they wanted to move, and the Flames needed futures. And so I think this is maybe the best you could get futures-wise. And, even the 4th round pick, the Flames are doing really well with making mid-round picks. Like, even if that's a 4th round pick, I can see that being a pick that could be NHL bound. I can also see them not using that pick and wrapping it up in another deal and sending it off. So I think either way, this team's been good at dealing their picks for value, and they've been good at making picks. So I think right now with the Flames going into a retool, rebuild, reuse, recycle, whatever you want to say, whichever R you want to apply, you need picks, right? You just need to get young bodies in the organization, and getting 2 of them in this deal, I think, is really going to help.
And then add on Hunter Brustevich and so, as someone who I think that there's a little bit of chatter that they're going to work hard to get him signed to a contract right away here.
Mm-hmm.
So and if that's the case, that'll be a nice nice cherry on top here. It makes sense for both teams. It makes sense for both teams.
Yeah, and I think we all love our own players, right? Flames fans love their players. Vancouver fans love their players. And I think sometimes we overvalue our players. And I've heard a lot of, Flames Twitter, Lindholm's worth 3 firsts, or Lindholm's worth, 2 firsts, and, the GM's firstborn child, or all these things. And I think when you look at it, this is a fair return based on what the teams needed. If these were 2 playoff teams, this deal would not have happened, right? Vancouver didn't want to subtract from the roster, so you weren't going to do that. And I've heard the Flames had other deals on the table with better NHLers than Kuzmenko involved. The Flames took this one because they thought it was the best futures package.
Yeah, and it's the price to pay for the Canucks. It's the price to pay. When you compare it to what the Canucks got in return for Bo Horvat, they got an NHLer. They got a 2nd round pick, and they got the former 2nd round pick in Natu Ratu, and a 1st round pick.
Yeah,
it's very similar. Very similar. So you look
and
at
that's
that
probably honestly what they use as a comparable when they're making the deal. Going, look, we did a deal last year. Here's what we're willing to give up because of that.
And they're both Lindholm and Horvat are from the same draft, both top 10 draft picks in that draft. Both centers. When you look at the framework of the Horvat trade, it's definitely the framework for this trade as well.
And I think the Flames may have even got more than they would have if they waited till March, because Vancouver wanted to get this done early. Like, with Lindholm off the table, I think Monahan's the number 1 center on the market now. And I think if you waited and clogged this up, you would have had a lot of teams that would have just gone on to the next guy, or said, we're just going to find someone else. Like, I think by doing it early, the Flames got a bit of a premium.
a premium, or just like they were able to. I think it sounded like Conway had a few other teams talking, and they were able to build that market up now, as opposed to waiting till waiting to the deadline when maybe someone else comes available, and
or maybe one of
knocks
those guys gets
Lindholm
moved
down.
between now and then.
Yeah, that's true as well. So, and then Dylan, going back to the Canucks side here, if say everything goes right, does it make it more? Make it more palatable that this is a rental. It makes it way more palatable that it's a rental. Draft picks come and go. Banners flying forever,
especially
right?
Last 5 picks, like 25 to 32. Those you will come and go.
That being said, if everything goes right and that happens, who's to say that they don't want, like, Lindholm and Petey don't want to stick together? Like, they want to stick together and they want to see how many they can, how successful this group can be. Yeah. And they can able to make it more than a rental. So,
and I said the same thing about Huberdeau when they brought him in. I said, bad deal, but between him and Kadri, if they would have won the cup, no one would remember those deals. And you look at any team, I think of teams like Tampa Bay, right? Teams that were these big, powerful teams, they will go out and make deals like this, full well knowing we're paying a lot for 1 year.
Yep.
And I think the Canucks are probably doing the same. Not just, the Stanley Cup means a lot in Canada. And if you look at how much money you make having those home games and all that, I think if they can get 1 year out of this, you're going to be more likely to attract free agents. You're going to be more likely to have Lindholm want to come back. Like, I think the Stanley Cup, I think in most cases will make a rental palatable.
Oh, yes.
And if not Lindholm, you'll be able to find a guy to fill that if you've just sipped from Lord Stanley's mug.
Yes. And it's not like, and again, it's not like they paid out the nose for it. That overpaid compared to other prices for, that compared to other prices in previous years.
And if we look at any deadline deal like this, it's usually for futures, right? Like you're trading a non-playoff team to a playoff team. You're not having 2 playoff teams trade top guys. So Calgary needs futures. Calgary got futures. And if you're Vancouver, you don't want to subtract from your NHL roster.
No, like it. And again, the Canucks did not give up Lekaramäki. They did not give up Olander. They did not give up Höglander or Podkolzin or Aatu Räty. All the big names that the Canucks have in the system, they did not give up. Brustevich is a very good prospect, but he was behind all those players because all those players are either ahead of him in terms of draft capital and what they use to get them, or closer to the NHL in terms of being. And I think for
Brustevich, coming to Calgary is going to be great because again, we don't have a lot there in our AHL system. So I think even in the juniors, we don't have a lot there on the blue line. I think he will probably get more chances than he would in Vancouver, a lot of systems, and it'll be up to him to decide what he does with those opportunities.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be like Vancouver where he might not get the opportunity because he's 4th or 5th down on that depth chart.
Yeah, and he could have ended up similar to Jack Rathbone, where there was nowhere for him to go outside of Abbotsford.
I think that it was probably inevitable that he got traded. I just think it was what deal.
Yeah, and he's had such a great season that his value is probably is potentially as high as it could be.
Yeah,
like it could get higher. Definitely if he continues to play like he has for a lot of this season, and he can develop his defensive game a little bit more. But like strike while the iron's hot. The Canucks wanted to make a move to help this team because they definitely deserved to have that. You've done everything you can. It's time for us to do something to help you, type move, and that's what this is.
Yeah, and I think it signals to fans and players that we're all in.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other assets they have to make another deal. I have a feeling that this is Vancouver's big deal.
oh, this is their big deal. If they're going to do anything, I don't think I don't think they'll be in on Tanev unless something massively changes.
Can you imagine?
As much as we would love it,
3 of Connie's first 4 deals with Vancouver.
It'd be ridiculous.
He's already done 2 or 3 with Vancouver. Like, let's just give you the whole darn roster.
But I think the Canucks are probably going to be looking for maybe adding some. I don't like using the word grit anymore. I don't think that's the right term in today's NHL. But another hard forechecker up front, who can rotate through the lines, because that's always been an issue of having consistent forechecking on the top lines. Because right now, I think you're looking at Miller and Besser as a pair, the Eliases as a pair, and then you've got Mikheyev, Pius Suter as your other 2 top 6 forwards right now. And then you've got Höglander, you've got Lafferty, who have both had stints up top there.
They've got a lot of European type players, and they need more of a Daryl Sutter type player, that big, gritty Western Canadian boy.
Yeah, I think the Jordan Greenway was a player that there was rumors that they were looking at.
Yeah, if they need a guy from the Flames, they can have Walker Dewar. He could fit that, or Klapka.
But they also have.
If we make another trade together, it's going to become like Red Rover. It's just going to be Jim Rutherford. Like, Red Rover, we call Tanev over.
It was complete opposite of, what was it, 2021.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Tanev ends up in Vancouver. I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened as part of this deal.
I agree. Yeah. I think the Canucks are looking for another sort of north-south forechecking forward, as well as maybe another depth defenseman.
Yeah.
I think
it's going to cost more to acquire Tanev by himself than it would have as part of this package.
It sounds like they definitely wanted to see. The Flames are definitely asking for another first-round pick for Tanev as part of this deal. I don't think that's what the Canucks are willing to give up at this point. So so that's why I think if they acquire another defenseman, it'll be another depth defenseman.
Yeah, I agree.
And then another another bottom 6.
I think it's very likely Tanev could end up there in the offseason, but I think he will be leaving the Flames, but I don't think he's going to Vancouver.
No, I think the question is whether or not the Flames and Leafs can work out a deal for Tanev.
We know that the Leafs GM likes him.
Yeah, and we know, and I'm not sure that there's the appetite to make a deal with Brad Shiliving right now within the Flames organization.
I think you make the deal, but I think there's a bit of a premium he's gonna have to pay. Yes, Brad, we know you like this guy. This is your guy. You can have him. It's like, when you were a sibling, your kid was playing with a toy and you wanted it, and it became a bigger deal because you were playing with it. Like, I think that's kind of the way it is. This is your player, Brad. You can have him back. You're gonna have to pay us for him.
Yeah.
Sean, here's a question for you. So Elias Lindholm and Jacob Markstrom were best friends here in Calgary. And I mean, Tanev, good friends with Markstrom too. We've even seen, Markstrom's mask has Tanev's missing teeth on it. And maybe we don't want to go down this road today, but if Lindholm's gone, if Tanev goes, do you think that's going to make the decision for Markstrom easier to say, I want out of town too?
I think that's definitely part of it. Yeah. I know that, I believe that Lindholm's wife and Tanev's wife are both good friends too. So there's not only just the players, but the families as well that play into this. I definitely think that is the case. That being said, Markstrom is also a new father, and with a family. And I do think that. And trading goaltenders in season's always a little bit dicey,
for sure.
And he's got a full no move clause. So I don't think that we'll see the Markstrom trade this season, before the deadline. But I won't be surprised if that is a move that is done draft day, around the draft, or around free agency.
You get 3 playoff runs out of him if you acquire him before the end of the season, but I think a team will have to pay a premium for that extra playoff round, and it's a matter of who doesn't think their goaltending is solid enough to pay that premium?
Yeah. So
Because I think the price you will pay dearly to bring them in at the deadline. If you're LA or someone, you think you need that and you're willing to pay it, great. But I don't know that anyone's going to pay what I think the Flames are going to want mid-season.
yeah, because I think I know
a goalie has to be moved, in my opinion, in the offseason, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's Markstrom.
Yeah, because I think I don't think he's going to want to stick around for a youth movement.
No, I don't think so. And he's in his mid-30s too. Like you said, he's a new dad, but at some point you're going to want to win that cup so you can get out of here.
Exactly. So I think that is an off-season move. I think we will see Tanev moved. I think we will see whether or not Hannafin's moved is going to be a question here.
My strong thought on that is I have a feeling and also a little bit of intel that the Flames said to Hannafin before he left for the break, let us know when you get back if you're in or out. We need to know after this break if you're in or out.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I think that's kind of the vibe that I
get the sense they've sent him away with a contract and said, final offer, take it or leave it.
Yeah. And if you leave it, then we're trading you, and it's full blown rebuild.
Think about it. Take a week. Talk to your family. Think about what you want to do. But we need to know when you get back.
Yeah. And the brand new new year, new Flames. So
yeah, and I don't know, on our show, we've talked a lot this year about, are the Flames going to retool or are they going to run for the playoffs? I think this trade shows you the way they're going. I don't think you trade Lindholm and then go, well, we're still trying to get that playoff spot. I think now we know they're selling.
Oh, they're definitely selling. It's whether or not how far down the road are they looking? Are they looking?
You have to move Tanev. You've got to move your UFAs. And Conroy even said that at the beginning of the year. You can't let these UFAs walk after still having, I think, a red butt from Goudreau. You can't let them walk. Now, do I think they're going to strip down everybody? No, but I think they will. Trade Adam Greer or AJ Greer, trade Tanev, trade the UFAs for something, and then figure it out in the offseason.
It's not necessarily trade the UFAs, all the UFAs. It's figure out who wants to stay and if they aren't willing to stay, you trade them.
I think you got to have them signed by the deadline. I think whoever's UFA,
no, you have to decide. Yeah, definitely.
That's it. If you're still a UFA at the trade deadline day, we will move you. If you don't want to be moved, sign a deal before then. You don't want this sort of like Goudreau. Maybe I'll resign, maybe I won't. Oh, sorry, last minute I decided I don't want to. I think ink has to be on paper before the deadline.
And realistically, the big ones are Hannafin and Tanev. After that,
I think there's value to be had in Greer this year.
Greer's someone, he will be someone that teams will want for a depth. You'll get another mid-round pick for him, which is value. Mm-hmm. It adds value, adds more ammo to everything here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oliver Shillington's also a UFA, but that's such
if
a
I'm a GM, I don't touch
situation.
him. I don't know what he is at this point.
Yeah,
I'm not trading
such a different situation.
Yeah, if I want him, I'll talk to him in the offseason. But honestly, if the Flames don't re-sign Shillington, I don't think he's in the NHL next year.
Or he'll get a PTO and see where he goes.
He might, yeah, but I think there's enough guys like him. And remember, he's really had one good year as a Flame. He had one good year and earned this deal. Before that, he was a 6-7 guy. And there's enough guys that what they are if you're going to make that investment.
I think that, but I still think there'll be enough. There'll be enough teams that looking for defensemen and looking for defensemen that they could get for cheaper. Right.
Yeah, and I don't know how much cheaper you get them.
Higher up in the lineup. So, other than that, is there anything we've missed here, Dan, in terms of this trade?
I don't think so. I was nervous. I mean, I think anytime you're trading your top guy, your top 6 forward, you're nervous about the return. And I know a lot of people thought this would be all draft pick return. You're not going to trade these guys, maybe Tanev for a couple picks, but I think that, if Hannafin moves, it's going to be for real bodies. If We saw Lindholm move. It's going to be for real bodies. Like, I like the return for Calgary. I worry this could end up as the Jerome McGinley trade where none of these guys pan out. And 5 years from now, it's a waste. I think it's a gamble worth taking, though. And I think, for where Calgary is, it's a necessary gamble. And it'll be interesting to see where they all end up.
Yeah. And also in today's day and age, it's never going to be just a draft, player for draft pick right now. With the cap situation, you're always going to have that playing into it.
Yeah.
And that's literally why Kuzmenko was involved in this trade.
And Kuzmenko reminds me a lot of Sharon Govich, and that he's the guy who had a good year, didn't really look good with a new coach or new way of doing things, goes to a new home, maybe looks better. I mean, Sharon Govich kind of odd man out in New Jersey too and came here. So, maybe that becomes part of the Flames' identity a little bit is, starting to be that rehab center, if you will. Not like Edmonton, but that's a real rehab center. You got Perry, you got Kane, but, a place you can come to get your game going again.
Just you have and that can be part of the identity, the outcasts, or similar to like the Golden Knights in the first year. They had the misfit line and all that. You could build that into the identity of the Flames going forwards if you continue to add players like that.
And the difference between Kuzmenko and Lindholm's salary is less than $1 million, I think. Like, the Flames did not take on a lot of money here. And $650,000 between the two, which is not insignificant for both teams. It's not that big of a jump for the Flames, but it also frees up $650K for the Canucks to make a move this year. Yeah,
and plus the Canucks. They don't have Kuzmenko's deal on the books for next year as well.
Yeah. And the only reason I bring it up is I think the Flames will shed some other money here. I can see them becoming a salary broker at the deadline, taking somebody, absorbing half and moving them on from another team. We see somebody do that every year. And we don't have to go down this road, but I think the Flames are about to get about $2.5 million in cap relief if Dubé is not available. Because I think that contract
I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but right now that they currently have just under $1.5 million in cap space, and that could grow substantially with more trades that they make.
Yeah, I mean, if you move Tanev, there's 4.5 right there,
depending on what comes back.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So, because again, it's such a tight league. Most of the league's tight to the cap. You're going to have to take a contract back in
or eat part of it. And that's another thing I guess we should go back to on this Lindholm deal. I was really impressed the Flames didn't eat any money. Like, I was kind of expecting they would have eaten half of Lindholm to move him to someplace, because even though he's got a good deal, everybody's so close to the cap. And so taking back Kuzmenko, I think, is a better option than eating money, because at least you can turn it into an asset.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I wonder if that might have been one of the reasons why the Canucks were able to jump up the queue there and make sure that it's and get Lindholm, is because they had Kuzmenko, who may not be as good of a player as some of the other players that they were getting, but they were giving up better prospects in Brustevich, and they didn't require.
When you eat salary, it's dead money. When you bring in a guy, at least you can try to get something out of them or move them on.
Yes, yeah. Even if it is just till the end of the year, which this Lindholm deal would be, it still hampers what you can do later on.
That's right. Well, I guess we can leave this with the fact that these trade trees continue, especially the Lindholm one. And I mean, he was brought in and now sent out again, and we'll see where this trade tree ends.
Yeah. It's always fun to follow the branches of the trade tree.
And it's kind of funny that Lindholm and Hanifin were brought in at the same time and probably leaving at the same time. I find that kind of interesting.
Well, that, and also, the 2 years ago you had everyone that whole the Gato line and all that, and now they're all gone.
Yeah,
all gone, all to different teams too.
Yeah, and I mean, even on that trade tree, I mean, Ferland's not around. Fox got moved on. Like, no team is going to retain those assets for long term.
No. But thanks for joining me, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
How can we follow you and find all your stuff?
Anyone who wants to follow us, find us anywhere that you find podcasts. We're Fireside Chat. We record every Sunday night for a Monday show. And do you mind if I plug one other thing, Sean?
Go for it.
Anyone who's here in town on Thursday, come on down to Bow River Brewing's tap room at 5769 4th Street Southeast. It's over by Chinook Center. We're going to be doing Flames trivia that night. Where are you going to go on game night to find a better deal than $6 for a fresh pint of beer and $13 for a pizza? Either come and play by yourself, hog all the glory, or bring your line mates, play as a team. Either way, doesn't matter. But we'll be doing trivia during the intermissions. We have a great prize pack for the winner with some Fireside Chat swag. We'll have some free beer from our pals at Bow River, and we'll also have some Flame stuff. So if you're in town, come on down. If you want those details again, you can either go to firesidechat.ca and you'll see trivia night in the navigation at the top, or check out our Facebook, and it's in both places.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. And then you can follow me at BeardedConnect03 on Twitter. You can follow the podcast at Shifts and Pucks on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can follow Kevin, Kevole, on all the social medias. Chris is Schneidz at SCHNEIDZ at on all the social medias. Tyler is T Noble, TNOBLE on the X app. Devin is Gordhouse09 on the X app. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll definitely enjoy, at Fireside Podcast for Dan and the Fireside Podcast. And again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving
Thanks for
giving us your comments and on all that. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.